Hey everyone! Welcome back. Let's do something fun today. We're going to connect to a database using just plain Java, no Spring Boot. It's really important to know how databases work at the basic level before we start using fancy tools. So, in this video, we'll start from the beginning, connect to a database, and do some simple things, all in pure Java. Alright, let's get started by opening the pom.xml file for our DAO module. You can see it on my screen. Alright, so now we need to add the MySQL connector J dependency to our pom.xml file. This is what lets our Java code talk to our MySQL database. It's like the translator between our Java program and the database. Let's load Maven changes. This will update our project with the new dependency we just added. Alright, let's make a new class in our DAO module. We'll call it main. This is where we'll write our code to connect to the database. Alright, now that we have our main class, let's define the main method. Alright, let's get into how we actually connect to the database. In Java, we use something called the connection interface. It's from the java.sql package. This interface tells us what we can do with a database connection, but the real work is done by the JDBC driver. In our case, that's the MySQL connector J library we added earlier. It's what makes the connection possible. We need to put our connection code inside a try block. Here's why: we need to make sure our connection gets closed when we're finished with it. If we forget, it can cause problems like memory leaks. It's just good practice to clean up after ourselves. Alright, now here's a big question: how do we connect to our database and get that connection object? Java makes this really simple with the driver manager class from the java.sql package. We just call it static method getConnection, passing in our database URL, username, and password. This method returns a connection object that we can use to interact with our database. You see this on my screen? Let's implement it together. Alright, now let's set up our connection parameters for the getConnection method. This method requires three things: the URL, the username, and the password. For the URL, the format is as follows. Start with JDBC. Then specify the database type, for example, MySQL. This might change for different databases. Followed by //. Then, your database's IP address, a colon, and the port number, usually 3306 for MySQL. Finally, a / and the name of your database. We'll use Spring Boot tutorial username. Alright, so we've got our URL, username, and password ready. Now, let's use them to call the getConnection method. This is how we tell Java to connect to our database. Alright, now that our connection is up and running, Java gives us another powerful tool, the statement interface, to execute our SQL queries. Alright, now we need to make a statement object. We do that by using the createStatement method from our connection object. Alright, now we need to run our select statement. To do that, we use the executeQuery method from our statement object. This runs the query and gets the data back. Alright, so when we run the execute query method, it gives us back something called a result set. This result set has all the data we asked for from the database. It's like a table in our program's memory that we can use to see the results. And just a quick reminder, result set is an interface from the Java.SQL package. It's what holds the data from our query. Alright, we've got our statement object, and just like our connection, we have to close it when we're done to avoid problems. So, I'm going to put our code in a try block. This makes sure the statement gets closed properly after we use it. Now, here's an important point about the result set. Depending on the query, it might contain one row, several rows, or even be empty. In our case, since we're fetching a list of users, we're expecting multiple rows. To go through each row, we use a while loop. The next method moves us to the next row and tells us if there's another row. Inside the loop, we get the values from each column. So, to get the name column, which is text, we use getString, and put name in the parentheses. To get the age column, a number, we use getInt. And to get the city column, which is also text, we use getString. Now print all things. One more important thing, just like our connection and statement objects, we need to make sure we close the result set when we're done. Alright, now that our code is all set up, let's run our main method and see everything in action. Alright, now check out my screen. You can see all the users from our users table. It's the same sample data we used in the last video. This is a clear sign that our connection, query execution, and result processing are all working perfectly. It's really satisfying to see everything come together like this. Alright, now suppose we only want to fetch the users from Bangalore. In our last video, now, let's say the city is coming in as a parameter from a request. Modify our query to handle this dynamically. Let's run our main method. Alright, it looks like we're getting an error here. Let me check the error message on my screen to see what might be going wrong. Oops, looks like I forgot to put quotes around the string value. In SQL, you have to use quotes for text, and that's why we got the error. Let me fix that quickly and run our main method again. Alright, check it out. We've got the users from Bangalore, just like we wanted. Hold on a minute. We're putting user input straight into our SQL query. That's not good. Why? Because it opens us up to SQL injection attacks, where someone could put bad SQL code into our database and cause problems and even steal data they're not supposed to see. That's really bad. But don't worry. Java's got our back with something called the prepared statement interface. Imagine it like a special template for your SQL queries. Instead of directly putting the values into the query, which remember is super risky, we use these little placeholders, question marks, and then we securely fill them in. Alright, now we're going to use a prepared statement. We'll create our prepared statement by calling the PreparedStatement method on our connection. So, in this method, we need to put our query. Use the same select query, but instead of putting the city name right in there, which we know is a no-no, we'll put a question mark instead. See how I'm doing it on the screen. Alright. Now, we need to tell PreparedStatement what value should replace this question mark in our query. But instead of manually adding values, which is risky and can lead to SQL injection, we use PreparedStatement, which safely binds values. PreparedStatement provides special methods like setString for strings, setInt for integers, and many more depending on the data type. And here's something important: indexing starts from 1, not 0. So the first question mark is index 1, the second question mark is 2, and so on. Alright. Since city is a text value, we'll use setString to safely insert it into our query. Now, remember that question mark we placed in the query for the city? That's at the first position, so we pass 1 as the first argument. The second argument is the actual city name we want to filter by. This tells PreparedStatement to replace that with our city name in a secure way, preventing any SQL injection risks. Alright, we've got our value in place for the question mark. Now, let's run the query. We're doing it the same way as before, but with our PreparedStatement this time. So, we use execute query on our PreparedStatement, and it'll give us back a result set with our data. It's time to run our main method. Look at my screen. We got the data we were expecting. Awesome, right? Alright. Let's see how we can add data to our database safely using PreparedStatement. We're going to do it just like before, but instead of typing the data right into the query, we'll use these little question marks as placeholders. So, let's type our insert into query and put where we want the values to go, just like you see me doing here. Now, to fill in those question marks placeholders with our actual data, we'll use the set methods from PreparedStatement, just like we did earlier. We have a name text, an age number, and a city text, so we'll use setString for the name, setInt for the age, and setString for the city. Remember, we start counting question marks from 1. Now that we've set all our values, it's time to actually execute the insert query. For that, we'll call executeUpdate on our PreparedStatement. This method doesn't just execute the query, it also returns the number of rows affected. So, if our insert was successful, it should return 1 because we're inserting just one row. Alright. Now, to verify that our data got inserted correctly, let's tweak our query a bit. Instead of fetching only specific users with a condition, Let's remove the where clause and just run a select asterisk from users to see everything in the table. Let's run our main method. Alright everyone, look at my screen. We just added a new user, Rock 50 years old from Delhi, to our database.
And there he is.
Rock's in the list, just like we wanted.
Insertion success.
Now, sometimes, especially if you're using an older version, you might need to manually load the MySQL driver before you try to connect to your database. Don't worry, it's easy. Just add this line of code. Class.forName, com.mysql.cj.jdbc. Driver, right before your driver manager.getConnection call. This tells Java exactly where to find the driver, ensuring a smooth connection. Let's run our main method.
Awesome.
As you can see, it's working perfectly. This confirms the functionality and reliability of our connection setup. Alright, let's quickly recap what we've learned. We now know how to connect Java to MySQL, run queries using Statement and PreparedStatement, and safely add and get data. Next up, we're going to explore data source and how to set it up in Spring Boot for easier connection handling. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you're notified when the next video goes live.
See you soon.